This
safe
conference
system
will
of
now
work
be
and
recorded.
training. So they're your two key requirements: is a safe system of work and training. I've cut out a lot of forms. You have one incident form, one training form, and that's only if you have workers. So really, if you're working one up or by yourself, a safe work method statement is what you need when you work. Jim's Bayswater, when they're making their trailers, had a couple of incidents, and the one thing they'll pull it up on is not having a safe system of work, or as you might call it, a SWIMS. Okay. The other things you might have noticed in there is monitoring compliance. So what we have, or what I've put in there, is that the franchisees will, within 3 months of starting, will need to complete a checklist. You know, things like I carry my SWIMS, I've got my safety data sheets, etc. And they'll need to submit that within 3 months to the franchisor, and that's part of you monitoring. And then every 6 months they'll need to complete it. What I did remove from the previous one is that we used to say that the franchisors had to audit their franchisees. Now that's been removed. What we've just said is that the franchisees will now do it every 6 months, and that audit will need to be made available if the franchisor requests it, or the divisional franchisor. Okay. Why are you monitoring? Because people go, well, we're two separate businesses. Why do I need to monitor another business? End of the day, you have a contract that says your franchisees must comply with WHS requirements or legislation. So I know for a fact, like if I use another example, is that I know that franchisees were being pulled up for having their mobile numbers on the side of their vans. Apparently that's a breach of contract. So you're monitoring that. The question would be, well, why aren't you monitoring safety? And that's how we come unstuck in court of law. So, but I have made it easier though. I don't want you to monitor, or for those franchisors here, I don't want you to monitor every year your franchisees. Some were doing it by, when they had a meeting, they would go out to the vehicle and go through it, but I thought that was a bit cumbersome. I think by the franchisees doing their own monitoring every 6 months, signing off on it, keeping a file of it, and then if you think there's an issue, you can request those. And that's been written into it. So that's a really important thing, the monitoring. What else was there? Oh, so this manual is a guidance note. I've got to stress that. It's a guidance note for your franchisees. You make it mandatory, you become liable because you influence them too much. So if a franchisee doesn't want to use this manual, obviously, I'm not sure where you've been told this before, but you can't enforce it. And that's really important as well. It is purely a guidance note. So that's so all the other past prosecutions with McDonald's and can't remember the other one with the gas bottle in the vehicle, etc. They were because they were giving directives. So even the SWIMS is only a guidance note. That's really important to remember as well, is that we'll provide the SWIMS to them, but they still need to go through it. So I did provide an instruction sheet. So I'm not sure if you saw that. It's like a startup sheet. They go through it, they check this, they check that, they fill this in. And on that note, there is no safety data sheets attached to this manual at the moment. And that's something for you to discuss later on, whether you want those in there, because the fact is they need to be updated every 5 years and they change at all different times. So like one data sheet might not expire this year, but next year, then there's one in 6 months' time and 3 months' time. Someone's got to keep updating those. So the other option for you might be is for the franchisees to keep a job pack. Well, we call them job packs. So when I audit the solar installation people at the moment, they keep a job pack, they keep their SWIMS, they keep their data sheets, they keep operation manuals for the plant equipment that they use, the more dangerous things. They keep their certificates, like a first aid certificate, in their job packs, and that just stays in their vehicle. Oh, and they'll keep an extra incident reports, etc. So that's something we sort of might have recommended. If you want the data sheets put into the manual, then again, have a discussion and let me know, and we can do something like that as well.
Yeah.
What else have I got on there? There are a few things that are mandatory. So there's like an issue resolution flow chart, and that's the reporting requirements around incidents. There is the incident hazard report form. So there's only one form for reporting everything. And there's little things like I've taken out, like an incident register. Now, at the end of the day, a franchisee might have a couple of incidents a year. I'm not going to start getting them to do an incident report and then putting it onto a register, etc. All they need to do is file the incident report somewhere, make them available, and obviously level of incidents I've included that they would need to report to their franchisor and let them know what actions are being taken, etc. So again, that's part of the monitoring under the contractor agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of those, even a plant register. A plant register is not a legal requirement, so I've removed that as well. You don't need a plant register. What the franchisee needs to do is to make sure, obviously, they've got maintenance records for their things. Now, if you think there should be a plant register in there, I can put it back in, but these are some of the changes I've made from the old mowing manual. Because, yeah, again, it's another form. You end up having 5 or 6, 7, 8 forms. So one form to report incidents and hazards, one form to record training and meeting, one, you have to have a chemical form, a chemical register. I can't get rid of that. It's $75,000 for not writing your chemicals on a register, which is a bit steep, but that's just the law. And your safe work method statement. There's also a little bit on first aid in there as well. You have to do a first aid risk assessment, but the question will be is, as a one franchisee, do I need to be a first aider? And the law is as clear as mud on that. There's actually no law saying that a single person. So I'm a sole trader. I don't need to have first aid. There's no law saying I ever have.
All our franchisees actually complete the first aid course in the initial training.
Easy.
Yeah, so that all.
Yep. So
they should all have their first aid.
So there's part of the agreement. That's fine. So that just takes care of that. Then if you've decided that they should do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to include a first aid assessment, and just sort of says, have a think about the types of hazards that you face. Does your kit have what it needs? That's pretty easy. You do it once, you never touch it again. But that's the crux of it. It's some people go, well, isn't it a bit short? But I can tell you now, from the prosecutions that I've been involved in, the safe system of work is the most crucial. Not just having it, but actually having it represent what you do for a job. I've no use having a 20-page. Personally, I think this is too long at the moment. 20 pages. I've transferred it into the thing, but while I'm going through the other 4, I believe that this can be made shorter and more understandable. One example is that when you dose the chemicals, that's written in there 3 or 4 times. So one under mopping when you're dosing the chemicals, one under something else when you're dosing the chemicals. So exactly the same instructions written 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have a look. I might make a couple of different scenarios for you, and you'll decide if you think it's appropriate.
Yeah. Less is more, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. We've had plenty of judgments say they're too complex. The judges say that quite regularly, that systems are too complex for the employees or the people to understand.
If it's too cumbersome, Mark, the employees won't read it. They'll just flick through it and go, oh yeah, and that'll be the end of it.
Yeah, all they do is go straight to the back page and sign off on it. That's right. So I have included the sign off. Now, the other thing is, this is something to think about. I did this for Jim's fencing. Technically, people need to sign off on the swims every time they do a job. Now, if you do 3 jobs a day, that's 3 20-page swims that you've got to sign off on. What we made is just a pre-start thing to say, are there any additional hazards that are not covered on this generic swims? There was a 1 page. They made like a notebook out of it where you just have it, and they just wrote no additional hazards, or they would add, yeah, there's a dog on the property. I've asked the owner to lock them up, and they would just sign off on that. That was just a 1 page. That way, the generic swim stays in the manual.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to keep getting re-signed off on. The employees don't have to keep signing the back of it. That was another option that you could have. But you've got to think of a way, how do these people review it before they start a task? At the moment, there's a sign off on the back of it, but I just think it's too long.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Ali, we're going to...
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Do we have any feedback or questions for Mark?
I think it was really easy to understand. I browsed through the 2 documents last night, and yeah, it's quite sort of really straightforward. So
very different to what we have at the moment.
Yeah, not daunting. Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Josh. Sal, have you had the chance to look at the manual?
I have actually, and I agree with Josh. When it's simplified, it does make it a lot more easier to pass the right message on to the franchisee. So I'd expect that any franchisee that reads through it will definitely be able to understand it. So definitely positive feedback in those terms.
Okay. Thanks, Sal. Andrew?
I just, like, I read it, and there was a couple of things that I picked up apart from grammar, but in saying it, because of today's society and the issues that we're going through at the minute, one point I thought of is, is there a caption in there about the current pandemic or future pandemics or future things like that? And I also noticed there about compliance with fire extinguishers. And from my understanding, and I could be wrong, because I haven't been in the transport industry now for 5 years, and as a fuel tank driver, unless we were trained to use a fire extinguisher, right, and if we chose to use it and we weren't trained and it was incorrectly used, insurance companies wouldn't pay out on damage. And secondly, it's pointless having a fire extinguisher in your vehicle if you don't know how to use it. You may as well just let it burn to the ground.
Yeah, okay. That's the same principle as first aid kits. Smaller businesses, you can carry a first aid kit. What you do is you just provide instruction. You don't need to have physical training. So it used to be all right to have a first aid kit with some basic notebook on instructions on how to wrap a bandage, and that's the principles you can work on. You can't make it law for everyone to be trained. I know we used to get the MFB out to train our nursing home staff on how to use them, and that's a best practice, and that's great. And same with dangerous goods. What you're doing, you're going into dangerous goods laws now. So that's another can of worms.
I know I'm dangerous goods trained.
Yeah, the pandemic. So this is the thing. Like, do I cover every single scenario? So what happens is this is why you have a pre-start, and you go, well, are there any additional hazards that aren't on this generic JSA? And well, yeah, there's additional control measures for this pandemic. So from now, not only will I wear this, I will wear this, this, and this. I will keep 1.5 meters apart. And you would add that into your pre-start.
That's not what the path I was going down, Mark. What I was trying to do is there an option for an understanding rather than what we need to do or anything else like that? Like a note of understanding that in a climate such as what we're going through at the moment. I mean, I've read so many emails on this current coronavirus thing from the gym's factory that in the end, I just don't read them because they're so long and so lengthy.
Yeah, okay. So this is where you need to decide on your swims. Like, this is where every person goes, well, okay, because you start adding violence and aggression in there, your dog attacks in there. Like, this is part of your, as an organisation or as an employee business. So what Jim's franchisor or the Ali might do is he might send out notifications.
Have not stopped.
So, like at this pandemic, what you should have been doing is getting all the information from the health government, setting it out in your franchisor newsletters, saying these are things you need to consider. Remember, they're not your employees.
No.
So what we used to do with Jim's fencing is we would educate them. So you should have told them that there is a Safe Work Australia document now available. These are some of the guidelines. These are some of the requirements out of that. If you think you need to, add them into your swims. Yeah, I mean, I can make one broad statement, but then next year there might be something else that you want to add a broad statement about. So that's why we try to keep it generic. Yeah, but yeah, so this is more about communication. Now, this is you communicating with your franchisees that something's changed in the world, or there's a new law. Like if there was a new compliance code next week on working at heights or working off ladders, I would have thought that Jim's Cleaning would send out some kind of newsletter to all the franchisees and say, listen, we're aware that some new legislation's come out. It's advised that you might do this. You can't tell them, obviously, but have a read of this compliance code and change your swims accordingly.
You can't use the word common sense anymore because that's an insult to somebody's intelligence.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't use that. I do a lot of WorkSafe training, and no, you don't use the word common sense, but you make the information available to them.
Yeah.
And this is where if you start saying, well, okay, when you go to a house now, you will wear this, this, and this, you're starting to tell people how to work. So if you miss a point and they get ill or sick, then you're liable now. This is the danger of this franchisee-franchisor relationship. I found over the last 6 years is that there were some that liked to give too many directions, and that's where some of the prosecutions have come.
Yeah.
Interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, certainly, yeah. But let me know if you want extra clauses put in and you think, well, okay, because you've got to remember this manual is going to be the generic one that's going out to everyone.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of a link in case anything like this happens in the future, or people want to keep updated to it, to put a link into their respective health services or government websites to keep them updated. Because I believe as a franchisor or even as a divisional, I'm not either of one of those, but if I need to click on the link, I'd kind of look for the link that I need that my franchisor or my divisional or my company is going to use to get the right information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be on an intranet system that you currently have where all the franchisees can sign into it? Okay. Well, that's something that needs to be, that's outside of the scope of this. But yeah, you need to have something like, that's where I was writing newsletters once a month for Jim's Fencing. So they would go to their meeting, they would say anything safety related, and someone brings one or two things up, but they would go, all right, for today, for the first 5 minutes, let's go through the laws on working at heights and what does that mean. And then next month they would talk about noise exposure and what are the decibels. So again, this is what should have come up in the last few months, is let's talk about COVID-19, what we're getting from, and this is how we'll keep you up to date. Yeah. But that's outside the scope of the manual.
Yeah. We do have weekly newsletters that goes out every Friday, Mark, and we try to put at least one WHS item in there as well.
Yeah, perfect.
And that goes out to all franchisees.
Yeah.
Now, regarding the
STSs, that's perfect.
Regarding the STSs to be in the manual, yes. I prefer to have it in the manual, and I know they expire at different dates. We just need to probably have a register and update the chemicals which expire. But I prefer it in the manual. I'm not sure how.
Will everyone be using the same chemicals? Will every franchisee use it?
What we give in the starter pack, I think, will be a good starting point. If the franchisees want to add their own, if they try new products or chemicals, obviously they'll need to add their own STSs themselves.
All right. I'll send you an email asking for those data sheets so I can add them all the current ones, add them in, no dramas. All those to be in there.
How does everyone think about that? Anyone disagree?
No, I think it's good to have one.
Yeah, so I prefer to have everything in one pack, as Mark mentioned earlier, just to have
so
it.
That'll also help me to make sure that every chemical is in the safe work method statement. Because I noticed oven cleaner, but I didn't have enough information because there was a couple of tasks in there, like oven cleaner is a classic, where you're working with corrosive. So I want to make sure that every hazardous substance must be recorded in the SWIMS and / dangerous goods. So I noticed that I was reading so these are the things I need to know about. Because I was reading the SWIMS and it talked about high pressure cleaners, and then it mentioned petrol and fumes. But I went back to the SWIMS and there was nothing about carrying petrol in the vehicles.
Yeah.
So you've got petrol, apparently you've got petrol hype things. So they're the kinds of things I'll need to know about. So need to make sure there's obviously a petrol safety data sheet in there as well.
Yes.
So they're using unleaded or I don't think they've got diesel ones. So.
Yeah, that would only apply to the pressure cleaning division, but yeah.
Yes. All right.
We have any further feedback or questions to Mark? No?
I don't.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mark. We'll keep in touch, and obviously we'll hopefully our aim is to over the next 2 to 3 weeks finalise all 5 manuals. I think we'll be working together to achieve that with Mark. So hopefully by our next video conference, which is in 4 weeks' time, we'll be very close to either finished or very close to being finalising everything.
What I'll say is just that I want to uniform all the SWIMS and all the manuals with each one. So I want to release them all together at the end once I've gone through every SWIMS, if that's all right.
Of course,
yeah. Just want them to be all uniform. So I like to just keep them all on review at the stage. I will add the pre-start just so you can see what it looks like. I just didn't want to send you through 4 different versions of the manual, but I think the pre-start might be worth looking at. It's just good if you've actually got a worker just to say, listen, I've thought about it. I've put my signature on paper saying there are no extra hazards today that aren't already covered in the generic swims. Now I can go to work. It's only one piece of paper. I just think, I mean, that's just what we do in all industries, and that proves that we've thought about it. So if you've got someone who just says, whatever, I'm just going to sign and start working, and then they fall off a ladder or do something that's not covered in the swims, there's a little bit of recourse. I'll send it through and you can have a look anyway.
No problem. Yeah.
So just be aware that there'll be a version 2 of this manual with the pre-start put back in it. Okay.
Sounds good. All right. Thanks for your time, Mark. And we'll keep in touch.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right. I don't have any other further items for today's meeting, but if there's anything you want to add or bring up, now's your good chance. We haven't had any incident reports or near misses that's been reported over the last 4 weeks. Normally, that's obviously a good sign. But anything you want to add or bring up before we go?
Ali, is there a way that maybe we can make note of the near misses on the journal? I think if I was a franchisee and there was a near miss and there was a counter there, I think I might be interested to read what that near miss could be, just to keep myself a bit safe.
I'm just making a note. So near miss reports, weekly journal. Yep, definitely. That's a good idea. Josh, anything you want to bring up or add?
So when this is ready, Ali, would this be available then? I know you said it will be in the hub, but are we doing it for the existing franchisees or?
Yes. So what I want to do, my idea of the launch is actually get them printed. So every franchisor, as a franchisor, you'll get 20 or 15, depending on how many franchisees you have. And what we want to do is actually literally hand them over to our franchisees, either at team meetings or one-on-one meetings, rather than just saying it's available in the hub. Obviously, most franchisees do the right thing and download it and have a copy. But I know for a fact some people won't. So our idea is to have at least every single franchisee to have a hard copy as well as access to the soft copy as well.
Okay.
And every new franchisee will get it as part of it'll be like included in the uniform pack. So again, they won't be able to start without having the actual copy of the manual.
Right, thanks.
Andrew, anything you want to add or bring up?
I thought we were just going to be talking about the WHS, so I haven't thought about anything to bring up. I will by next meeting.
No problem. No, all good. All good. There's nothing else anyway, so I just want to go around the room. I'm hoping everyone's still staying safe with all the COVID-19 issues. I see a lot of our franchisees are actually getting tests. What was that, Andrew?
I said I'm still waiting to meet somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who's at it.
Let me know. So I'll know someone that who knows.
I don't know anyone.
With the cleaning disinfectant service, the new one that's come on board, I've done the COVID-19 certificate, but I'm still yet to get disinfectant for it. But is there any way that we need to report how we apply it?
Have you watched the video that we did for the franchisees?
I probably haven't.
No, it was actually in the weekly journal, but I'll attach it to today's call.
Yeah.
There's actually a 5-minute video starring Sal, which is also in this video conference. which
Yep.
shows you how to actually apply the disinfectant and how to use the PPE, what PPE to use, and everything else as well. So it's a very handy video, but I'll attach it to today's call. So it's like a 5-minute video on YouTube.
Yeah, all right, fantastic. So I think there was a couple complaints that came through about, I guess, services that weren't happy with how they were being applied or not working or something like that.
Exactly.
And,
So we need to, when people call in for these services, they have obviously an expectation. It's not just about spraying some chemical on the floor. It's we need to make sure we do all the touch points, we do all the power points, door handles, disinfect. So which in this video it outlines everything that you need to do.
okay, fantastic.
There's also a
So,
reading guide as well that's available to download from the hub.
Yes, the video is also in the hub. That's right.
Oh, great. Yeah, I've got the manual open up now, and it's very simplified to read, and it's actually more exciting to have it. It's actually the layout of it all and everything like that makes it so much easier to read and understand. So it is very much straightforward.
No, all good. No, that's good news. I think I'm really happy with it as well. I think it's compared to what we have now, it's definitely a good move forward, and hopefully over the next 4 or 5 weeks we'll have everything finalised.
Cool.
All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks everyone for their time and their feedback. And all the next 3 video meetings are actually the dates have been set. So I'll attach that to today's call as well, which the link won't be changed. So this is the link from now on, and we'll go from there. Once again, have a great weekend, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. See ya.
Thanks. Have a good weekend,
Thanks,
everyone.
Ali.